Thank you, Spirit, for joining us in this space. We ask that you come into our minds and help us to let you speak through us and think for us and share the messages that you would have us share. We're grateful to come together with you in this and look forward to the outcome. Amen.
Welcome to Talking Spirit. My name is Elizabeth, and I am here with the beautiful Yuta.
Welcome. Hello.
So, we seem to be so-called mixing things up here with me kicking things off. I almost said I'm welcoming in Yuta from deep space because she seems to be in one of those places today. And so that's part of why I seem to be leading off the conversation today. There have been so many things coming through, and they all seem to connect in somehow, but finding the through line sometimes can feel a little challenging. There was a symbol of a so-called magician. It's a beautiful image of a woman who is with her hands up to the heavens, calling down all of this light into her vessel. And then that light is coming through her and pouring out onto the world. And in a way, we're really meant to be that vessel. We're meant to be bridging heaven and earth, you might say, within ourselves, becoming empty vessels so that the divine light can do what is most helpful for all of us for our healing and awakening. And so there then was this other image of the divine light, you might say a big bright sun or the big Merkaba of the divine up above this group of people dancing and being danced by these strings of light coming down from the heavens. So we're meant to receive this light and be informed by it and be danced by it and be sung by it and be loved by it and to be taught how to love by it. And so there's just this really juicy energy wanting to be communicated today that is kind of like, well, what's it all for? You know, we often talk in these talks about a seeming personal journey of awakening, a seeming individual going along on their path. And those stories that we share are helpful to our minds and helpful to seeming others. But today there's a little more of the message of we're meant to receive this light to free all of the slaves. That was the message, the slaves in the mind, not as individuals that we have stories about, but the mind that has become enslaved to darkness, to illusion, to confusion, to separation, and to fear. And so the invitation today is really to talk about how do we let that light come through so that we are in our healing function and in the idea of our healing relationship invitations that the Spirit gives us. We're meant to learn about our disconnections and transcend them to see actually they're not disconnected, to see that through line of light that is there, but there's just been a twist and a misperception in the mind. So we get given healing relationships of all sorts to help us to see where are we hung up, what's blocking us, what's keeping us from being that channel that is going to nourish everyone and everything. I was seeing before the talk the allegory of the long spoons where people seem to be starving. Their arms are long, so far long, and they have little spoons on the ends. They're so long that they can't turn back to feed themselves. And they're fighting each other, trying to get to the mana, trying to get to the food, trying to crawl over their fellow to get what they think they need. And they're starving until somebody realizes, oh, I can feed this other person with my long spoon. And in doing that, I will be fed and nourished by others. So that's what's showing up here. What's coming up for you, Yuta?
Well, I was just hearing awakening is a collaborative venture. And what does that mean, right? Because it seems like some of us on this path, for much of it, we seem to be by ourselves or doing a lot of work just within ourselves and with the spirit. But as far as I have seen, for myself and for people that I've been around and have connected with, there will always come a time where we're asked to come out of our hermit phase, so to speak, and start connecting with others. I'm thinking about a friend that I have who, he's really talented with the guitar and with singing and with songwriting. And it seems like he's gone through so many phases where he's by himself. And then just recently, I saw that he is starting to do guitar lessons. So obviously, he's heard some kind of call to share his gift, and it seems like it looks like teaching the guitar to other people. But really, I think underneath, just the feeling that I get when I think about it is there's a call to connect with his brothers. And it just does seem like that's how it goes. Where, we get to this point where we've done enough of the work within ourselves where the spirit comes in and asks us to come out of our comfort zone and really start to share the things that we've learned, share our insights, share stories too of what's happened in those sort of hermit phases, because that's always helpful. I find that it's always helpful to hear other people's healing journeys, stories of how they've gone through the darkness and come out on the other side. And I think you mentioned something about coming out of the other side of the tunnel, I think before we hit the record button today. And for myself, it's been the same. There's been Seems like it's this ebb and flow of times, and we've talked about this before, but just seems like it's an ebb and flow between these times where we're going very inward and doing the healing that we need to be doing, and it's very helpful for us to be by ourselves and be quiet and rest or do the things that feel helpful for those times. And usually, towards the end of those, the spirit will come in and really call us out. And there's a phase of extension and a phase of connecting with people, or even if it's just making a post on Facebook, there's still a sense of coming out and sharing things that are not only helpful to our own mind at the moment when they come out, but they can also help our brothers. And it's always a little funny for me to come around to a topic like this because ultimately, we're taught by many spiritual teachings that there's only really one of us here. So it's almost like a little paradox to say that we do have to come out of these hermit phases and come out and share and connect with other people, other brothers. But the beautiful thing is we always end up teaching ourselves. And yeah, ultimately, there is only one mind, there's only the wholeness of our true self. And yet, while we find ourselves here, it does seem like there's multiples of us, and coming out and giving gifts of light to this world and to other people through whatever means feel appropriate for us. It does seem to be a good use of our energy. And yeah, that sort of service mindset that you get into when you start coming into a flow like that, I know for myself, has seemed very helpful and always seems to bring me out of anything that may still be going on in my mind in the moment. And I do end up just saying whatever I need to hear. So those are always the kind of opportunities I enjoy in terms of coming out. And but also, in your parable of the long spoon, it is sometimes it seems like we are asked to ask for help so that we can be fed, seemingly fed spiritually, because it seems like our own spoon is too long and we can't just try helping ourselves anymore. So, yeah, those are some of the things popping through here.
Yeah, I like what you said about the paradox. Yeah, I would say the spiritual path is chock full of paradox. Um, yeah, it's sort of interesting. My experience is like spirit seems to take me regularly, micro, macro, micro, macro, micro, macro. There's just sort of an in and out of little picture of a seeming me, big picture of the vastness. And, for me, that's part of the required alchemy, back to this magician kind of idea. We have to be kind of rattled out of our beliefs and our sense of ourselves. And these paradoxes kind of are like sandpaper in a way, for my mind anyhow. But this idea of the one mind that has imagined itself into multiplicity, that kind of storyline has been showing up really dynamically with someone I've been doing some healing work with recently. And the message that was showing up in a new way for this person was that seemingly over lifetimes, this person has played out a specific kind of a role. And there seem to be parts of the mind, as in other people, throughout the span of time that have been impacted by the way that person played their part. And so there was this invitation for the person to do their inner work. We don't free the slaves, so-called, in our own mind or in seeming others without doing that inner work. And so this person was invited to go deeply in and to face a lot of different aspects of the mind. Lifetimes of helpfulness, lifetimes of war, lifetimes of conquering, lifetimes of killing, just the generation of data. I kind of like the idea that Spirit gives me of this data generating in the mind. And one of the things that I loved about the Course when it came to me, almost one of the first things that really grabbed my attention more than any other, was collapsing time. That lit me up like a light bulb. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm finding this information. It was so juicy to me because I had that awareness of these storylines playing out over and over and over again. And so I've just been sitting with somebody in the invitation of that. When we do our own work and we bring these things to rest, seemingly in our separate mind, when that collapses, when all those lifetimes collapse, there's space for everyone to receive the mana. That's amazing grace. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's a great symbol. It's actually funny. I've been thinking about, I think I sometimes talk about this idea of the way it looks to me in my mind is that the journey is a spiral that goes up. And just as you're talking, it's kind of like showing me a slinky,
Wow.
and sort of that collapse of time is the slinky just coming back together out of its sort of extended version, right? And I mean, yeah, when somebody heals something in their own mind, I think it says in the course too that a lot of times it's not really something you are aware of, but it does heal the whole mind. And there's things that, for example, Elizabeth, you could be healing in your mind, and it would mean that I don't have to do it.
Yep.
And that is not to say that you're going to do healing for me, but it's just when we do our own inner work, it helps the whole mind, and sometimes it helps to usher people through their own stuff much more quickly, either because we can share about our healing and it just makes things click into place for them, or simply because the knowledge or whatever missing piece wasn't available before in the mind is now available to them because it is all connected. So yeah, I do like I do like those images. Obviously, as we've shared before as well, like sometimes this stuff is not fun. I myself seem to be going through something right now and it's not feeling super fun, but even just coming on here and making myself go into extension mode is helping. And it's not a comfortable process most of the time, but it's absolutely necessary. And I'm grateful to everybody that is doing really true deep inner healing work, because they're helpful to me and they're helpful to the whole, and it just feels like you end up in this big family together that's all working from the same purpose. And even just that feeling uplifts my mind and it uplifts the whole mind, that it seems like we're alone in this a lot of the time. And yeah, we do have to do our own work, but there's like this whole group, let's say, or this whole sort of big cushion under our minds that kind of tells us all the time that this is good, this is really the only way to be here, and we can all do this, and the ultimate goal is inevitable. And when there's darkness, there's always help available. So yeah, it just brings me into gratitude thinking about that kind of an idea.
Yeah, it's very much of my journey has been very solo, and not a good or a bad. It's just the way it's been. And it does seem like we, at an individual level, have certain kind of assignments, to face certain parts of the mind. And, when I talk about my journey's been really hard, it's not got anything really to do with the world's terms, right? It's like that deep, deep facing of really nasty darkness that honestly has felt like it wanted to take me out over and over again, So it's a challenging journey, but as you say, it's like collectively, those of us that really know what we're here for, we are that cushion to one another, and we are that place of safety and certainty in the mind that says you can handle this. You do have the inner resources because they are of the divine and you are of the divine. And so take up your bed and walk and get through this. We have to be bolstering one another. And that energy, even when I was by myself for years, I mean, very few people, 2, 3, very few people know the journey I've been on in a real specific way. And it's nonetheless been that I have felt the presence of, maybe you'd call it the unseen, maybe you'd call it the spiritual guides. I don't know what you want to call it for yourself, but boy, I have felt them show up dynamically through incredibly challenging inner experiences. And as you said, we have those experiences for the greater good, for the benefit of all, not as a martyr, not as a savior, not as a big sacrifice. It's just sometimes what our job is. And so, as you said, for all those that seem to be, having gone through similar things to what I've gone through, my hat is off to you all day long, because I know how hard it's been for me. Again, not as a badge of honor, just like, whew, yeah. But as you say, those that will come so-called after us, they will have an easier time. That is the purpose of this. We do feed each other so that we have the sustenance to keep going. That's what it's about, to have the energy and the sustenance to keep going. We have to alchemize very challenging energetics. The symbol of the magician pulling the light from source through them to then have it radiate out throughout all of creation. It's not an easy thing. So, it's good to just kind of get clear sometimes that it is challenging, and also to not hold ourselves in some aren't I special kind of mode about it. It's like, look at it, see it, so that when you are in those tough times, you have that sense of all the backup that you've got.
I shared with you recently, there was a movie that was recently shown to a group online, and the movie is called Always. I think it's a Spielberg movie, and just as you're talking, just the one scene that caught my attention then is just coming back in, which is, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, but the main character dies in a plane crash and finds himself in sort of a new version of his previous reality. And an angel comes to his side and sort of walks him through just getting used to being where he is now. And she shows him a scene of a small plane flying through the air, and he's like, oh yeah, that looks like the one that I flew, and I did this loop through the air with it. And he's kind of like, for 2 minutes he goes on telling about how proud he is of the work that he did in this little plane when he was younger. And the angel kind of, I forget exactly how she says it, but basically she's telling him, like, you weren't alone up there, were you? And he's like, well, I didn't see anybody else up there. And she kind of just says, like, well, your instructor was there. The person that invented the plane was up there. And basically just giving this picture of, like, you weren't up there just by your own making. There's so much that went into even the possibility of you being in an airplane that flies through the air. And, just the feeling I got was that, she's pointing towards, well, true humility, but also the gratitude that comes from recognizing that you're not walking this path alone. There's so much, even if we're coming from a place of A Course in Miracles, like Jesus did so much work for the entire mind that essentially we don't have to do anything if we could make the leap and just accept that he's kind of done the healing for the whole mind, for the entirety of the universe. We could just be done. Not that that's really something, that from a place of pressure we need to put ourselves in, but those are kind of the metaphysics of how the Course talks about it. And there's so much work that has gone into us being able to be where we are, not just me and you, but everybody, in terms of the healing of the mind. Like, there's so much healing on a really big scale that's already happened, so that we can, take the steps that we need to be taking now. Even simple things like human rights kind of things that seemingly show up in the world, and sort of the world progressing. These kind of things do help the mind along. But of course, also, teachers that have really helped us, teachings that have really helped us, just kind of developing this gratitude around what's already happened, so that I can sit in a bed right now and make a recording and share something that's hopefully uplifting to the mind. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the message is one that was there before we hit the recording button through two of the charms, which was a heart that says love, and then a heart came after that says thank you on it. And, you know, we have so much love surrounding us, and we have so much beyond what we seem to experience here that is shouting thank you every time we take a look at the darkness that we're believing to be real and true. It does dissolve it. It does break it down and neutralize it. And, you know, so yeah, there's just, as you said, you know, there are all these symbols and messages that the Spirit's delivering to help us to surrender to what you said is the ultimate invitation, which is we don't have to spend another bazillion years or lifetimes choosing the completion. It's here right now. These symbols that we talk about, these so-called processes or awarenesses or anything else, they're just the sandpaper to help us slough off the last of resistance. And there's just this massive, warm, yummy light that's just sitting there endlessly, ceaselessly saying, come on, here I am. So it's beautiful what you had to say. And yeah, I feel like there's not much else to say right now unless you have something that really needs to be spoken. What do you know?
Just the last thing I think that comes to my mind is it's always nice to be proven wrong. Because, before we hit the record button today, I was sort of in a funky place and couldn't really get a good grasp on even what was going on. And I haven't really been able to, for the last couple of days, get a handle on anything in terms of, figuring out how I can help myself. And, we had kind of set today for a recording date. And of course, I wake up and it's like, wow, this seems about as bad of a day for recording as it could possibly be for my mind. But right now, it seems like doing the recording is what helped my mind today. And it's the last thing I thought that would actually do anything. So, it's like a lot of the times on this journey, we have no idea what's going to be most helpful. And, just having the open mindedness and willingness and availability to try something just as an experiment is super, super important and is really helpful. And it's a reminder that I can use over and over and over still. And yeah, so I'm grateful for today. Thankful to be here and glad I could keep an open mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Yuta. It's been a delight. Thank you to all who have come to share in the juiciness that's here. And thank you to the divine for calling us in every moment to remember what's real and true. So we're really grateful to have been here with you. Sending much love.
Lots of love.